Hello, third grade. It is Mr. Frazier back again for another science keynote address. Today we're going to finish our reading for the week by talking about invertebrates. Now, we've been talking about classification for the last couple of weeks, and just a reminder that classification means organizing animals based on their attributes or their characteristics. So how their body is structured, what they eat, how they breathe, all of those things are how we organize or classify animals. Now, in the first section of this book, we were talking about vertebrates, which, as you will remember, are animals that have a backbone or a vertebrae. Now we're talking about invertebrates, and those are all animals that do not have a backbone. So that could be animals with exoskeletons, like hard bodies, but the skeleton's on the outside, or it could mean animals with no skeleton at all, like an earthworm or an octopus. Even a bacteria or a single-celled organism that you can only see with a big microscope is an invertebrate. So, but they do share certain character traits. So let's dive right in and talk about them. Okay. Invertebrates. There it is. What is an invertebrate? As we talked about, they are animals without backbones. You can see a ladybug there to the right. It's got a exoskeleton. They usually have soft bodies, which is why the ladybug and other insects need an exoskeleton on the outside to protect them. Now, vertebrates and humans, we have our skeletons on the inside, and we have kind of the soft parts on the outside. You can think of insects and many invertebrates as kind of the reverse. Imagine having all of your bones on the outside. It would be very strange, but that's what invertebrates have often. That exoskeleton means outside skeleton. Remember when we were talking about spelling and we were talking about prefixes and suffixes. The prefix is the first part of the word, and exo means outside, like exit. That's how you leave a room, go outside. Exoskeleton. Invertebrates are cold-blooded, meaning they cannot regulate their body temperature. A caterpillar or a lobster cannot put on a jacket and stay warm. If it is cold outside, then the invertebrate will be cold. And if it is warm, it'll be warm. That's what cold-blooded means, of course. All right. Types of invertebrates. There are more invertebrates than there are any other kind of animal. There are tons of them, and there are tons of different types of invertebrates. Crustaceans are hard-shelled invertebrates that live in the ocean. I have a misspelled word there, not lobstered, but lobsters and crabs. Here's a picture of a crab, and crustaceans breathe through gills, then they have hard shells, and they live in the ocean. So if you've ever had a lobster dinner or a crab dinner, you're eating an invertebrate, right? And if you're having lobster for dinner, you got to crush the exoskeleton to get to the good stuff inside. So all crustaceans spend some of their life in the water, and they breathe through gills. Another type of invertebrate are mollusks, and mollusks have soft bodies. They do not have exoskeletons, and they do not have endoskeletons or skeletons inside their bodies like we do. They are just completely kind of mushy. And so the types of invertebrates that mollusks are like worms and squid. If you've ever seen a worm digging through the dirt, you see it's kind of slimy and squishy. It doesn't have bones, it doesn't have shells. Same thing goes for octopus or squid? Let's look at a picture of a mollusk. There's one. That is an octopus, of course. And an octopus, being a mollusk, can change its body shape so it can fit into tight little spaces by squishing itself up, or it can spread out its tentacles if it wants to scare something away. Now, some of these invertebrates, like an octopus or a squid, live deep, deep, deep in the ocean, in a part of the ocean called the abyss. And that is so dark and deep that sunlight cannot reach it. In fact, human beings do not go down to the ocean abyss hardly at all, because it's so dark down there and it's so dangerous. It's the deepest part of the ocean, and the pressure from all that water could crush submarines. If you've ever gone swimming and you go underneath the water and you go towards the deep end, you feel that pressure in your ears. Now imagine, instead of just being a couple feet, being a mile or so underneath the ocean's surface, all of that water crushing down. So you have to have a specially designed body, like an octopus or a squid, to live down in the ocean's abyss. Octopus and squid also have special appendages, or arms and legs, called tentacles. And tentacles are unique because they can change and move very easily. If you look at your own arm and hand, it only bends certain ways, right? You can pick things up, but you can't bend your arm backwards. An octopus has many different tentacles that it can swirl about in a bunch of different directions, and it uses that for hunting. So they don't have joints like we do, like our elbows or our wrists. They just have these free-flowing tentacles that fly all over the place. And they live deep down in the darkest parts of the ocean, in the abyss. All right, next slide. More invertebrates. Hooray! Speaking of invertebrates, we have arachnids, which have 8 legs, and are like spiders and scorpions. Now, insects, we're going to talk about in a second. Insects and arachnids are very similar. They're both kind of small. They both scurry around and hunt other things for food. However, the difference primarily is how many of each thing they have. So, an insect has 6 legs. Arachnids have 8 legs, as you can see on that kind of gross spider there. Insects have 3 body segments, we will see, but arachnids have 2 or even 1 body segment. Also, they have different kinds of eyes. Insects have compound eyes, but spiders have simple eyes that are more like yours and ours. But also, arachnids often, if they're spiders or daddy long legs, can spin webs. So they're similar, but they're not the same. They do all have the exoskeletons, though. Now, insects are the most numerous invertebrate in the world. So what that means is there are more kinds of insect than there are more kinds of anything else. If you counted up all the kinds of mammals, all the kinds of fish, all the kinds of amphibians, there are more insects than anything else. And you're going to need to know that for your quiz and your test. Speaking of insects, we got to look at their anatomy. The word anatomy means how their body is shaped. And all insects have a similar anatomy because they get classified in the same group. If they had different kinds of bodies, well, then they'd be in a different group. So what is the anatomy of an insect? They have 3 body regions: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. You can see it in that picture of the honeybee. The head, obviously, is the front part. The thorax is the middle. And the abdomen is the back part, and it's the largest part. The thorax is the body region where the legs and wings connect to. You see all 6 legs connect to that central region, the thorax. The abdomen is where all of their internal organs are. So a insect actually breathes through its abdomen. If we could look really, really closely at that honeybee's abdomen, you would see teeny tiny holes called spiracles, and that's how they breathe. They don't breathe through their mouth the way that we do. On their head, they have all their sensory organs. Just like us, they have their eyes on their head. Makes sense. However, they have compound eyes. So instead of just 2 eyeballs, they have, each one of their eyeballs has thousands, hundreds of tiny little lenses so that insects can see in many directions at once. If you've ever been like bit by a mosquito, or there's a fly buzzing around annoying you and you tried to slap it, they're very hard to hit, and that's because their compound eyes, they can see almost 360 degrees or all around them at once. It would be like if you could see in front of you and behind you at the same time. You'd be very, very hard to sneak up on. So compound eyes means a bunch of little eyes working together. And then their antennae are used to sense their surroundings. Now, we have ears to hear, we have noses to smell, and we have tongues to taste, but insects don't have all those things. They use the antenna to sense chemical signatures and sound vibrations so that they know what's around them. Instead of having ears and nose and mouths, they have these antennae, and the antennae are always moving around, sensing the environment, looking for certain chemicals in the air. So if you're a honeybee like this guy here, you are looking for nectar to make into honey. Well, nectar is sweet and gives off a sweet chemical scent, and their antennae pick up that chemical trace so they can fly. And then as they get closer, they see the bright colored flowers and they know, bingo, this is the spot I'm looking for. And they land on the flower and gather the nectar to take back for honey. Now, all types of insects have 6 legs. All types of insects have 3 body regions. So whether you're talking about bees or ants or dung beetles or cockroaches, they all have the same types of things. 6 legs, antenna, 3 body regions, and every type of insect has wings. And you may be thinking, hold up, Mr. Fraser, ants can't fly. Well, the regular worker ants can't, but the queen ant does have wings. And not all insects' wings fly. So, kind of super gross cockroaches do not have wings, they fly around, but they do have wings on their body, so if they fell from high up on a roof or something, they flap their wings to kind of float slowly down. So all insects have all the same character traits because that's what we're talking about, classification. Whether you're a mammal or you're a fish or you're an insect, you have the similar character traits, and scientists classify or organize those animals into the same groups. So we're going to be talking more about insects a little bit more next week. We're going to talk about how they change, kind of like amphibians do. They metamorphose, they change their shape throughout their lifetimes. And then we're going to talk about other kinds of life and finish the chapter. Anyways, that's all for science this week. I will be posting a video about your spelling test on Friday. And once again, I miss you guys. I can't wait till we're back in class. Remember to wash your hands and stay healthy. We're going to get through this. I'm praying for you, and we will be back together soon. In the meantime, be good, and I will see you soon. All right, bye-bye.